welcome to Bound by Fantasy, a channel all about books and bookish things. Today I'm going to talk to you about rereading the Divergent series. Okay, so I have read the Divergent series before. I read it years and years ago. And this year I kind of wanted to go through and reread some series that I've already read. Um, Interesting kind of story about how I got into the Divergent series. So when I had never heard of that Divergent series, and years ago when it had come out, I was substituting in a local high school, and I substituted for a group of students multiple times, repeatedly. And these students were students with special needs who really didn't enjoy learning very much. And anytime that I was substitute for them, reading or doing anything engaging in school was really like pulling teeth to get them to do. And I found that when I subbed like this time, I went in there and they were reading the Divergent series. So I substituted. We did our class where we read part of the book, and then they actually asked to come back during their free period so that they can keep reading the book. And I just thought that was amazing. So I thought that, the fact that this book engaged them so much and got them excited to read and to engage in the book and to actually like enjoy reading was just so amazing. So I was super excited to hear, okay, what's this book has got to be good, right? If they're into it. And then I picked up the book and read it myself, and it was amazing. So I absolutely loved the Divergent series when I read it the first time. I reread it recently, but this time instead of reading the physical books, I listened to it as an audiobook, which was really interesting because I hadn't done that the first time. So, I have seen the movies, I've read the books myself. So you always like, as you're reading, you picture what the characters sound like or how, they'll come across when they're reading. And it was really interesting to listen to the audiobook version of it. I did enjoy listening to the audiobook, and it was nice to be able to listen to it. And again, it was something I was like familiar with, so I was able to listen. And sometimes you just pick up on things that you maybe didn't or you forgot about the first time because someone else is reading it to you. So it was something really fun to do to, listen to the series completely again, and then go through each of the books. So I kind of want to talk about like, does it hold up? So I would say that Divergent, still amazing. I love it. I would read it again. I've read it now twice, maybe three times, honestly. Um, it's really, really good. I do enjoy the movies. I would say that they're not as good as the books, but I mean, when does that ever happen? Um, Divergent is amazing. Still love it. It's great. Insurgent is good. I still really, really like Insurgent. It, continues the story. I think it does a good job of continuing the story, and it's very engaging still. But then Allegiant was really a huge letdown. I kind of forgot how much I didn't like Allegiant the first time, and it's not because of what happens at the end. It's just dry. Like it doesn't have as much going on. I feel like it was just trying to stretch into being a trilogy, and it really wasn't needing to be. I think it could have ended after Insurgent, and that would have been fine. I love the series, but I would say Allegiant is just a letdown compared to the other two. I think the other two are just amazing, and this one just isn't quite as good. I remember not liking it as much the first time I read it too, but I feel like as a reread, because I wasn't reading it for, the first time, I liked it even less this time. So honestly, if I read it again, I might just stop there. um, Something else that I did though that I have never done before is I also listened to the audiobook 4. So that is the Divergent series essentially told through Four's perspective instead of Triss's perspective. There are a few different chapters in, I think it's Allegiant, where it is told from Four's perspective, but the entire book 4 is told from his perspective. And I actually really loved that. So I was curious if I would enjoy it because I do love Divergent. And I, after reading all three of those and then seeing that Allegiant was, more of a letdown, I was like, oh, am I not going to like this one? And I've never done 4 before, but I actually really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good and it was so interesting. I love reading books and getting like the other character's perspective on everything that happened. I've read the Twilight series, and then Midnight Sun is one of those books where it's about, Edward's perspective. And it's just so interesting to see, how he connected to Tris very early that, she really wasn't aware of that. Um, and that, he fell for her really quickly. And also just to hear about his background and to hear about his experience. One of the things I liked the most about it, I think, was actually the beginning. And in the beginning of that book, it tells about before really Divergent happened, his experience of going into the Dauntless um, faction and what his experience was like and how he ended up choosing Dauntless, um, and what his different trials and things were. It also talks about his fears and his fear landscape and how he very quickly got the name Four. That was always something I kind of wondered because it seemed like no one knew his name was Tobias, and you find out why he got his name like so quickly. He didn't divulge his name to anyone, and then you learn, that they gave him the test very early on, like really like the first, I think it was first or second day, before anyone really knew his name. And they found out he had four fears, and that's where he got the name Four. So I knew that it was because he had four fears, but I thought it was interesting to hear, okay, how are you going to explain the fact that, with Triss's training in Dauntless, she didn't do the fear landscape rooms until halfway through training, right? So how does Four get his nickname and no one else knows his name? So I thought that was really interesting. I really enjoyed like his training. I always really loved like the beginning of Divergent where Triss is doing all of the different trainings and bonding with the other cadets that are there and everything. So I enjoyed seeing that from Forrest's perspective and what his experience was like before Chris even came into the picture. I thought that it was just going to pick up right where, he meets Triss essentially, and it does explain his background way before that. So I really enjoyed that part a lot, and I think it helped explain a lot of things from Divergent and his relationship with his parents and what happened with them. So I really, really enjoyed that a lot. It also one of my favorite like moments in Divergent is when Four brings Triss into his fear landscape room and seeing that from his perspective was really cool. I enjoyed it from Triss's perspective, but it was just extra like insightful and just really neat to see like what a big deal it really was that he allowed her to come in and learn her name and hear about, what happened with his dad and things like that. So I just thought that was really great. And I'm glad that it, stood up for the most part. Like I said, Allegiant was a letdown. So, maybe I just will stop. I've read the whole thing, right? So I don't necessarily need to read the whole thing again every time. But Divergent was great. I enjoyed Four. I might actually buy that one and read that one again or just sort of listen to it. And I also just enjoyed doing that different perspective of listening to an audiobook versus reading. First time I did read the physical book, and I've seen the movies. Um, so it was really neat to have the experience of listening to the audiobooks. I think the person reading it does a really great job and I think it turned out really good. Um, and it was just a different way for me to experience something that I have always enjoyed. I love the Divergent series, and it was a nice way to listen to it. So, let me know. Have you, read any series that you read a long time ago again recently? Do you reread books, or do you often just read them once and that's it? That's kind of leads into do you own books or not, right? I love to own books, not just for like my book trophy shelf here, but I also do like to reread books. And this was something that I had wanted to do again was to reread the Divergent series. So have you ever reread series that you have done? Have you reread the Divergent series in particular? Have you read the book Four? Did you enjoy that one? Let me know in the comments below. What do you do with your books and how do you engage with them? And if you have done that, do you reread the physical book again or have you tried the audiobooks? Audiobooks for these didn't exist back when I first read them, right? So now they do, and I can listen to them via audiobook because they became so popular and they made an audiobook adaptation of it. So pretty cool. Let me know how you do that, and I'm excited to hear about your experience with books. So if you liked what you saw, please subscribe, hit the bell, and join our community of fellow bookworms because here at Bye Bye Fantasy, our adventure never ends. Thanks so much. See you next time.